So hi everybody and welcome to today's faculty conversation where we're going over the digital photography program and sort of reviewing what's been going on with the development and the growth of that program, and then also to answer any questions that you might have. Um, to answer Colleen's question in the chat, I don't need to be included on the emails, but if you wouldn't mind just sending me a synopsis, that would be great. Um, so, digital photography. We have this shiny new program that launched just last year, focusing entirely on digital photography. We did have a kickoff for this program last summer, and I think the recording is still floating around somewhere on YouTube, but I just wanted to give you all an opportunity to have an update. We have new faculty and the courses for the most part are now built, so I wanted to sort of touch base and talk about how things are going with the digital photography program. As per usual, this is a open forum, so if you'd like to chime in, you can click the microphone button at the top of your screen. This will turn on your microphone, and then please click it again to mute your microphone. This is especially important if you are using your laptop speakers rather than a headset, because otherwise it creates the echo. And then we will pass the virtual talking stick as we usually do. So if you want to chime in at any point, please click the button of the person that looks like a person waving, and we'll pass the talking stick that way. And then hi everybody, thank you for joining us. If you're just now joining us while I was mid-spiel, thank you for coming today to overview and touch base on the digital photography program. So this is rather exciting. So as a reminder, like I was just saying, the digital photography program launched last year. We are offering a associate's in digital photography, and we're also offering a bachelor's in digital photography. And these are full programs, rather than being concentration. So a student isn't majoring in FAS with a concentration in digital photography. They are full-on digital photography majors. The first official digital photography enrollment began in 16 EW5, and we've been steadily rolling out the courses and growing the program since then. So I pulled some statistics this morning in case you're interested. The associate's degree currently has 78 current students. That's 78 students who've declared it as their major. And of those 78, 66 have been active within the last 3 terms. And then the bachelor's degree has 150 students, and of those 150, 134 have been active in the last 3 terms. So for a brand new program, that is a really exciting place for us to be right now. Interestingly, the average age for both programs is roughly around 33, 34, and the average age across the COCE is 32. So we are right in the right demographic there. So the Digital Photography Associates is designed to help students develop the skills that they would need to become a professional within a professional photographer within the industry. So these are students who are specifically looking for the skill set that they need, not necessarily students who are looking to perfect their craft. The students who go into the bachelor's, on the other hand, these are the students who are looking to both perfect their craft, but these are also the students who are more likely to want to be the like a branded official photographer as opposed to somebody who just has the skills to take pictures. So sets the difference between somebody who maybe works with another photographer doing wedding photography versus somebody who is their own professional artist with their own studio and so forth. Any questions so far? Give Colleen a chance. Hi, everybody. No, not yet. Great. Just wanted to do a check-in real quick. All right, so who are the target audience? So what we were keeping in mind for the courses is that the students who are going to go for the associates, like I said, are the students who want the technical skills. Chances are they may already be working in the industry. So these could be the people who work, at the studio photography studios. That's awesome. But they work at those those photography studios, like the Target or the mall or something like that. So they're already doing something with photography. So now they just want to formalize their skills. They do enjoy taking photography, but they may not have committed yet to whether or not they want to turn photography into their full-time craft, or if they just enjoy working it professionally for now. The bachelor's, on the other hand, like I said, this is going to go deeper than the associate's degree because we are preparing the students when they graduate the bachelor's degree that they can run their own studio, that they can be professional photographers or self-sustaining professional photographers rather than somebody who has the skill set to work for a commercial studio. They may have photography experience and they're wanting to take it to the next level. These are the people who are committing to turning photography into their way of life. As those of you who teach photography, this is probably the same kind of fire that took you into the direction for yourself when you became a professional photographer. So so this is recapping. This is just sort of like the AA versus the BA. We want them to, if they go pursue the BA, we want them to be able to dig deeper into understanding photography so that they ultimately build a digital photography portfolio that they can, then take out into the world with them. So here is, from the course catalog, here is just a snapshot of what the students are experiencing. And realize it might not be the most visible, but work with me here. So students who are doing the associates program, they need to take 60 total credits. And of those 60 credits, 24 of those are going to be tied to the major. And so these are going to be courses like FAS 226, the digital photography course. But we're also sending them through a couple of the other new courses. So the FAS 235, 240, 255, and I actually can't read there, 375. These are courses that are designed to help them, they're targeted to help them build into that business sense that the goal of the associate's degree. Now, the bachelor student would take these courses plus some. So the bachelor's program is a bit more comprehensive. Instead of 24 credits, the major is 33 credits. Plus, they have a couple other courses that we require them to take, as establishing the framework for overall their major experience. Those are the SAS required courses. So notice, for instance, that they have to take History of Photography, Graphic Design 101, so they have a basic understanding of design and color theory. And we've also recommended a couple other art classes that they should take as well, such as, introductory drawing, so that they can, be able, get a sense of how to compose the space without, without relying entirely on photography. We've also recommended film history, history of design. These are courses to help students build a different perspective. FAS 260, history of architecture, has not yet been offered here at the COCE, but it is one that we know that students do have an interest in, and I anticipate that this course will eventually be offered to help broaden this opportunity here for students. So you'll notice within the major courses, they do have a lot of the same courses as the associates. So they are taking the business course, they're taking the lighting course, but then we also are adding courses to help them build toward the digital photography portfolio. And the aim of the portfolio, like I said, is for them to have a gathering of work that they can then take out to the world. As those of you who have built portfolios know, the portfolio is sort of the proof that you actually are the artist that you say you are. So it's a very important thing to help students develop. In order to take the portfolio course as a prerequisite, students should be taking the digital narratives and documentary course. And most of our students haven't quite yet reached to that point. We are, getting there. Students who are navigating the path. We have had a few students going through the lighting course, and that seems to be the one place where, in the process of getting to the later half of the program, the lighting course is sort of the sticky point. So we'll talk about that one in just a second. But all the courses related to the photography courses have now been written, and we're in the process of starting to offer all of them for the first time. So we should see perhaps later this summer, if not later this year, definitely some growth in the courses that are being offered for the digital photography program. I don't know that we're quite yet close enough yet to being able to say we're graduating our first graduate. We might be another year or two out from that, but I know that will be a very exciting moment when our first graduate is walking across the stage. So any questions about the course development and the program path for either the associates or the bachelor's? Alrighty. So the tech specs. Those of you who have taught FAS 226 for a while, you're familiar with the tech specs regarding the camera. We do require that our students use a DSLR camera. The goal is that they should have the manual and the automatic operation and can use interchangeable lenses. One of the reasons for the DSLR camera is because we're trying to prepare students for the tools that they need to become professional photographers. We have had students historically who come into the course attempting to become professional photographers with only their iPhone as their camera. And while I know that the technology of iPhones has come a long way from where it used to be, we're still promoting the idea that a professional photographer should actually use a professional quality camera. We also require them to use a tripod and a lighting kit. Now the lighting kit, like I said, this is the sticky point, because as you can tell just from this slide, at least back in June when we were first offering the courses, the lighting kit cost $750. And so that is kind of a tricky sticky point, but we have put a lot of time and effort into negotiating access to a lighting kit that students can order from the university bookstore. That's a really good question, Mike. I don't know off the top of my head, but they can order it from the university bookstore, and because of that, they can use their financial aid book vouchers to pay for the lighting kit. So, but where it gets complicated is that the vendor of the lighting kit, the way that there's complications with the shipping of the lighting kit, and so we require students to purchase the lighting kit 6 to 8 weeks prior to course start, and we put a hold on the course within 6 weeks before term launch against enrollments, so students have the opportunity to get that lighting kit. One of the frequently asked questions that keeps coming up, I say keeps coming up, it's not a frequently high yielded question, but it is a question that I get once or twice a term for students who are asking about what happens if maybe they already have access to a lighting kit, or do they have to get that exact lighting kit. And I know that this is a question that we've been exploring quite heavily for a while. The official preference is that students do use this lighting kit simply because it's the one that the course was written for, and we want to make sure that they do have all of the pieces that they need in order to complete the course. In the event that the student might have, access to a different lighting kit, we just sort of say, well, we would prefer you use this one, but it kind of gets into some really tricky zones. We have mentioned to advising before to really understand when students say that they have access to lighting, what they mean by that, because that access to lighting could be at their employer, and who knows if they're going to be able to stay employed throughout the whole term. So we do definitely try to encourage them to make sure that they actually own their own. And Colleen, that's actually a really good question, or comment about being able to rent the equipment. And it's the logistics that have mostly proven to be the tricky part, because we want to make sure that, because if you rent equipment, my understanding of the situation is if you rent equipment, you only are renting it for a certain period of time. Students have the entirety of their program where they could use the lighting kit, and if they go ahead and invest in the lighting kit, they also have a starter lighting kit to take into their craft. So then it becomes theirs. So in a way, with the purchasing the lighting kit and being able to use their financial aid, in a way, it is like, we could say either a rent to own, or we could say buying it on credit, but it is a way to help them get started as photographers. And plus, it also kind of becomes a commitment, because who's going to buy a lighting kit if they're just taking an elective? So it does help, and it's one of the other problems that we have with the lighting kit is that it can only be shipped domestically. So there are issues with the vendor being able to get the lighting kit out to, our students with international addresses. And Mike, the discount that they've negotiated through the bookstore is like the same lighting kit. If you go buy it piecemeal or directly from the vendor, is like $200 more. So there is a bit of a discount that they were able to negotiate for our students. And then also along the way, we do ask them to get subscriptions to Adobe Creative Suite. And these are also, they'll use them in the digital photography courses, and then they'll also use them in the required graphic design and comm courses that are also part of the program path. So any questions about the tech specs? All right. Now, this is really just as an FYI, putting it out, what we are thinking of when we're thinking of possible careers and job outlook. Many of you are professional photographers in some capacity already, so you're already aware of this, but I wanted to, put that out there for the FYI for anyone who might be interested in, what our goals are for our students when they graduate. And that's my last slide. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is all of these courses are built with pretty much the same model in mind, that that students need to be able to demonstrate their photography. They also need to be able to demonstrate their artistic understanding of photography. And so a lot of these courses are built with the multiple assignments per week. So there's the assignment where students are sending their photos. There are the assignments where students are doing peer critique of each other's photos. And then there's the assignment where they're doing some sort of research or reflection-based assignment about where they analyze the process that they're using to develop photography. So all of these courses do ultimately have the workload question that I know we've been discussing. And so, in these courses, it becomes that much more important as faculty that you are able to support students and really help them understand the craft of photography, because that's why they're coming to us. They're not just coming to submit assignments and walk away. They're actually coming to learn from all of you about how to become photographers. And so, one of the things that I definitely encourage in these courses is if you're having to face the question of um, how to triage your time for the week. Make sure you are providing the feedback where it matters most, and if your feedback is slightly on the lighter side for other assignments, that's fine as long as you're balancing out. What students need to know about their grade, and what do they need to know to improve as students and as photographers. Um, so I'm curious, since a number of you are currently teaching digital photography or are teaching it in the coming terms, what are some of the strategies you've seen work well for helping students develop their craft within your courses? And you can either type in the chat or raise hand. Oh, Colleen.
Hey,
Hey.
I think, quite honestly, the feedback in the rubrics, and I teach 226 digital photography, and that is really where I think the most of the teaching really comes into play. That and the announcements,
Mm-hmm.
providing tutorials and links to videos and image examples and all of that good stuff. Um, but yeah, I found that like on the first assignment, I was doing a lot of feedback on the rubrics, probably too much. I don't know if you can't do too much, but I was definitely spending a lot of time with it because there were a lot of things to talk about. Um, and then the next assignment, it was like I barely had to comment at all because they had taken the feedback and applied it to that next shoot. And it was really, really cool to see how, the students that really did, kind of pour over the rubric were able to apply that to the next shoot, and they didn't need as much feedback in that particular area um, the next time around. And then the ebbs and flows I've been finding, but for the most part, I think the rubrics, which I think are effective and help point our conversations in a productive way. That and the announcements are probably the most effective ways of influencing them.
Absolutely. And I think, I do have to say thank you for the feedback on rubrics. I hear plenty across all of our courses, about the question of the efficacy of the rubrics. And I'm glad to hear that you're finding them helpful and that your students are finding them helpful as well, because they are designed with the intent of helping guide students in a very focused sort of way towards where they need to be. So I'm glad that you're finding them very helpful. Um, and then what about uh, uh, let me see, how do I want to ask this question? I know that some people have tried doing the using video feedback to give feedback on the contact sheets. Have any of you who are on the call right now, have you tried doing the video feedback, and have you found it that it works for you? Anybody? Anybody? So while Mike is typing, is there anyone who has a question about what I mean by video feedback? And Mike and Jeff are typing. Give them just 1 second. Taking screenshots, commenting on them. Yeah. Jeff says I did screen capture videos for a while, and I feel that it was effective. Um, so I guess I suppose it possibly depends on how you what tools that you use in order to do the video feedback. So for instance, if you use a program like Screencast-O-Matic, it's a free program, and it gives you a way to record your screen while also recording a narrative with it. And so I know that some instructors, what this has allowed them to do is really go through each of the photos that a student is submitting for the weekly assignment, and give like specific feedback on what the student is doing well, especially if it's in the way that it relates to the module, and give sort of that critique from a professor's standpoint of where students can improve as photographers. The only catch, and admittedly this is one of the downsides to it, is it can be time consuming when you're also having to juggle all of your other grading for the week. So it's one that I am supportive of if anyone wants to move in that direction. So if you do have any questions about moving in the direction of doing the video feedback, and you have questions about how to effectively triage your time, you're welcome to reach out to either me or your team lead. Your team lead may also have some advice in that regard as well. And then I think in just about all of the classes, FAS 226 for sure, we're getting to the point of rough drafts. I believe that the milestone 2 or perhaps 3 has now been submitted. Overall, how are things looking regarding the research paper? Does anyone have any concerns, observations, questions that they'd like to discuss? Colleen, go ahead.
Thanks. When it comes to the photography part of it, I think that most of the class has a good handle. We just submitted the milestone 2, which was their rough draft of 6 to 8 images, and I think with the feedback, their images are going to be really strong and great and cohesive. What I'm finding is in the write-up, it really ranges. Some students write a paragraph and barely touch on the things that that are mentioned on the guidelines and rubric, while other students, do like a full page write-up and are very point of fact with all of the guidelines that we're grading them on. And I was just wondering like if it's just really a matter of the students reading the directions or not, or if there's a way that I can help reinforce the need to really go over what they're doing in writing, because that's kind of where the disconnect happens for me and my students.
That's actually a really good question, because how much time do you really want to spend critiquing the photographs, and how much time do you want to spend being a writing instructor? So that is actually a very valid question. So I would err on the side of whether or not you feel that they are meeting the rubric expectations. So if they are completing the assignment and say, meeting the minimum expectations, and perhaps maybe it's not the most well written, I would grade them accordingly. So, for instance, let's just say like they're asked to turn in a page of a reflection to coincide with their photographs, and let's say that the page, it answers all the questions of the prompt. Maybe it falls slightly short of a full page, and maybe it's not the best written, but you still understand it, and it's not full of a large number of errors. To me, that might be something I'd rate maybe more in the range of like proficient as opposed to exemplary, just simply because it's kind of just meeting expectations of the goals of the assignment, but not blowing it out of the park. But I wouldn't necessarily say that it necessarily needs improvement either. So it really kind of it is a judgment call at that point, and I would, if it's like if it was supposed to be a full page paper and say they only submitted a paragraph, and that paragraph is like only half a page long, then probably is a good indicator that they probably will fall into the needs improvement area of the rubric, because chances are they have not fully developed or elaborated on the questions that they're being asked for the assignment.
I see that
Yeah, go
Mike
ahead.
had a really good suggestion of using samples.
Mm-hmm.
And where would I be able to find like a sample of a really well written write up? Could I use one of my students with their permission and like take their name off, or is there a bank of work that I can pull from that we have somewhere?
Well, there is not a bank in existence yet. So if you find one that you find that would make a good example, we need students' written permission, so it would need to, you'd want to make sure you get that through email, and then, you can share, with everything removed. So any obvious identifying information. And then if any of you already have examples, or if you start collecting examples, it would, I think, be beneficial to share them across the faculty. But again, you want to make sure that the student's permission is explicitly clear, that you have their permission to use that as a sample for all photography students, for going forward, and not just the students in that class. So you'd want to frame it in a way that makes it makes the boundaries clear. Um, it's also helpful, if you want to create your own, or if you're using your own photos. One thing to watch out for, whether you use your own examples or whether or not you're finding student examples, is that there's kind of two psychologies here. One is that students can sometimes feel intimidated if they see an example of exemplary work. But by the same token, if you give them maybe average work, you'll start getting average results as well, because they'll see it as an endorsement from you of what is acceptable. So you want to strike a balance that is both a good example for conveying the assignment without being so amazingly awesome that it intimidates students into not producing the work. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay. And then Jeff is saying that he continually has issues with students not reading the rubric and guidelines for assignments, and they miss the instructions. And he does remind them multiple times in the assignments. Does anyone have any suggestions for getting students to look at this material? And Mike mentions redundancy is all, in the discussion board email. And I'm assuming, Mike, you're responding to Jeff's question there, because I actually agree. Redundancy, is only a benefit. So what I have found helpful in my own classes, and granted I'm not teaching photography courses, but in the classes that I teach, I have the announcements where I clarify the assignments. If it's relevant in the discussion board, I will clarify the assignments in the discussion board. But one thing that I do in the grading feedback is I also include feedback about the next milestone. So for instance, my course just submitted a rough draft, and they have a final draft coming up pretty soon. And so I included a note in the grading feedback to all of my students. So this is an example of when a feedback bank becomes very helpful. The note says that be sure you read the final rubric before you submit your final paper, because the rubric is weighted differently, and so the points that you're receiving on this draft may not translate to the same points on the final paper. And what I have found that does, just by telling them in the context of their grading feedback that they need to review the assignment guidelines and rubrics more closely, is I have found that it forces them to actually do so, and it's taken down the number of times I've had to ask students to resubmit, or the number of complaints I've gotten about the grade, just since I've started doing that. So I definitely advocate redundancy. Now, of course, there is sort of the question of like how much redundancy can you do before you feel like you're becoming a broken record? And it would have to depend on the nature of the assignment and what you're trying to get students to take out of it. So if you are doing a milestone, it makes sense for the redundancy to be within both the grading feedback and then your announcement feedback. But if you're looking at helping them developing their photographic craft, you could highlight maybe certain areas of um, whatever the module was discussing that week and focus in on just that aspect within your grading feedback. So if the module is about lighting, you just focus in on the lighting and like use this to sort of scaffold how you're developing the critique. And eventually, if you write your announcements and craft your announcements in a proactive way, and then your grading feedback to sort of close the loop there, it'll become a smoother process where students will get the access to the information they need before, during, and after the assignment. Does that help answer your question, Jeff? Well, yes, it does. Okay, but so you're doing all of that, and it's still something you feel still not clicking. And I believe, Jeff, uh, you also supplement all of that with emails. And so I know that if you're doing all of that and then some, I can imagine it does start to feel a bit frustrating that if they're still not following the directions. Are you noticing that consistently your students are missing the same directions? Um, so that might be worth a larger conversation to have. Uh, whether or not. So what I would recommend doing is reaching out in your team lead shell, or just coordinating with your team lead to reach out to all of the photography instructors, but just ask the rather frank question: is anyone else having this exact problem? And ask your fellow faculty, what are your solutions for overcoming it? And if we're seeing enough trends, you know, where the same area, where everyone might be having the same sticky point, then that's a conversation that we can collaborate on together to see if we can identify ways to maybe more collectively better communicate the assignment to students. So so there is opportunity. I know one of the downside of me not personally teaching the courses is I don't always know where those sticky points are, but there are things that we can do to throw resources at students. So maybe finding some tutorials that we send, maybe from the dean level, or um, sharing some best practices across the faculty. So I think that's a conversation worth initiating and seeing where it goes, especially since a number of you um, are clear to teach any of the courses within the digital photography program. So at any point, you may be working with some familiar students, or you may be, sharing students, term over term. So there's definitely, maybe it's not specifically going into which students need what help, but if you can identify some of the places where students have common issues, especially, if they leave 226, where are they still having some issues? And that'll give us some ideas of what kind of resources we need to develop to support those students. Any other questions or thoughts, either about the digital photography program or the active teaching digital photography? So if we're all set, we could probably go ahead and convene early. I do want to say, thank you to all of you who for being digital photographers and being willing to teach our classes and help our students through this major while Colleen is typing. I am hoping that I am anticipating the growth of the program, and I'm hoping that we continue to see it. The courses, this course, the expanded offering of courses, and eventually more majors. And I look forward to the point when we have digital photography students walking across the stage. That'll be really fun. So thank you again, all of you, for attending. And like I said, the session was recorded. Um, and I will have this posted up on the YouTube playlist here soon, so that all faculty can have access if they're interested in knowing a little bit more about the program. To answer Mike's question, we don't have video production within FAS, but you may have it over in, I guess it would be the communication side of courses. So definitely some opportunities to reach out for networking there as well. So, so thank you everybody, and I will talk to you all again soon.